What is good, everybody? Welcome to another Gold Standard podcast production. I'm Rob Stats Guerrera. Vish is off today at a work conflict, so Levin is here on a Monday. What's up, Levin?
Are we still calling it under review, or is that Vish specific?
Well, we got some things to review because the results are in for the 49ers Media Madness Bracket Round 2. We're going to reveal those results. I know a lot of people have been saying we want to see the actual votes. We want to see the results. They think we're rigging this thing. We are not rigging it. So we will show the results live for everybody. And then we're going to get into a little bit of a free agency scorecard for the 49ers in the NFC as well. Have you recovered from your defeat to Michelle Majuk in round 1?
Yeah, it wasn't too surprising. It wasn't going to be something I won, I don't think, unless this was just like, 100 people voted from our listeners, and it happened to be most of the people that like me.
All right, so we'll
I will,
reveal
I will say
those.
this. If it was being rigged, I'm the one in control of this thing. I
That's
created
true.
the bracket. I would have definitely won and would have definitely beaten Rob the next round. So it is not being rigged.
I'm trying to find my fancy schmancy topic bar that has suddenly disappeared. Oh, there it is. Okay. Here we go. It's the Media Madness results. I know we're going to show the whole thing. So we'll start at the top left of the bracket, Levin, if you could be so kind as to share your screen. And the
Yep.
interesting thing that I think we're seeing here is I'm surprised that the quote unquote content creators are having a way stronger showing than maybe you would have thought, even against some pretty big names in the whole traditional media space. So we'll start right off the bat. I mean, poor Rohan. Matt Mayoko is just he's a staple. Like he's a
And
one seed.
this one is a little messed up if you're wondering why there's 3 pie charts.
Yeah.
I forgot to put where he was from. It was edited in after it started, and unbeknownst to us, that means it creates a third pie rather
Yeah.
than just having it edited. So that's why there's 3 there. Both of those smaller ones are Rohan. I will say the reason why I think it's skewing content creators, I think it should be noted that we fall under that category, and thus it is coming from us and our Twitter feed. And I also think
Right.
Twitter is predominantly the domain of content creators.
Agreed. Yeah, this is where we live. And so it does, and look, this is just supposed to be a fun thing. It's not supposed to embarrass anybody. Anybody going up against Matt Mayoko would have suffered the same fate. He's been covering the 49ers for basically my entire life. So, but again, the goal of this is to get exposure for everybody. If you didn't know who some of these people are, their Twitter handle was in there, their outlet was in there. So, hopefully everybody gets more exposure. Congratulations to Matt Mayoko. He moves on. Should we move on to matchup number 2?
Yes, this was one that I didn't know which way it was going to go when it started. Matt Mayoko, pretty confident because of
Yep.
what you just said. This one I wasn't sure, and Brad Graham has been riding this rocket for the last 2 years, and he is very, very popular, and this proves it.
Yeah. Brad is, like you said, a rocket. Absolutely. Shout out to Jason Aponte, by the way, who's watching right now. We'll get to your matchup, Jason, in a little bit. But look, John has been doing this for a while too. John was very helpful for me after I got laid off. He spent some time talking to me on how to kind of do your own thing independently, and I really, really appreciate that. But Brad, especially with the Ayuk stuff this year, I mean, he had a home run with Ayuk and his comments about the NFC Championship game. So this is no shame to John Chapman. Brad is, you're right. He's got a rocket right now, and he is like king of 49ers content creators.
Yeah, and Chapman does a lot of fan outreach, which is why I wasn't sure how this was going to go. He does, his pregame things where he gets a party together with everybody, and
Yep.
he is, I think, probably as much as anybody, the one that engages with the fans.
Yes. He does for the 49ers road trips during the year. Duran 808 watching on YouTube says Chapman was my guy. Hard first match. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't do John or Brad any favors with this matchup. That is true. It was one of the most
Yeah,
difficult.
yeah, I didn't have any say in who phase 2, and let's just say Rob decided for about as controversial of matchups as you can get,
Yeah, I really
making
was.
people face each other that are on the same team, right, for the same segments and all
Yeah.
that. So
Absolute jerk job by me. So sorry. I am a little bit of a jerk. Let's be honest. All right. Matchup number 3. This one was like the matchup of the tournament.
Right.
Grant versus David Lombardi. You could not have two more opposite coverage strategies for the 49ers than Grant on one side and David Lombardi on the other. It was very, very close, but Grant gets the win, 56.9% of the vote to 43.1 for Lombardi. Were you surprised?
I wasn't, because Grant is, I mean, this goes to show you what doing what Grant is doing does for you.
Yeah.
He is very engaging. He definitely, I think, changed a good bit with his new gig, and he is a lot more friendly to a certain degree. Like he's helped a lot of the content creators
Oh
get
my
started,
goodness.
brought them on. And so I think that gives him a connection to this content creator segment. And he's kind of the one that I feel like he's both. You know what I mean?
Yes.
He's mainstream media and he's content creator. So that's why Grant was kind of in my mind, one of the favorites to win this whole thing, because he's connecting to the content creator that I just knew looking at it were considered content creating. Thus, a lot of the people that see our tweets are going to be that segment because he's connected to that and he's a known name in the mainstream media. I thought that he's one of the favorites. So this didn't really surprise me. He actually jumped out to a pretty significant lead when this first went live, like the first 500 votes or so. He had 70%. And then I think as it continued to get into more and more people's feed, David
Yep.
kind of made a comeback and ended up getting close towards the end.
And I will make a little special announcement here. Grant is going to do a live stream with me on Wednesdays. We're going to stream it on both of our channels on YouTube, and I'm going to stream it on Twitch also. Every Wednesday, Grant, 12 noon Pacific time. He and I will do a show together. It's going to be a ton of fun. I'm super grateful for him for being willing to do it. So we're going to have a Wednesday show now. So I'm really excited that the lineup is taking shape. And so you get more of me and more of Grant, which I know people equate us together a lot, but I think they're going to be surprised. I'm going to go at Grant a little bit.
And just allow me to take this time to say I am sorry, Grant, for suggesting this to Rob. You know, I have to do a show with Rob every week. I apologize sincerely.
Yep. Well, hey, we're doing it now. It's going to be a ton of fun. But congratulations to Grant. That was a tough matchup, but he moves on. Matchup number 4. This one was really interesting. Larry Krueger and Jennifer Lee Chan. Larry edges Jennifer out 54.6% to 45.4%. Here's the thing. I don't know anybody that dislikes Jennifer.
No, I honestly think this one swung due to engaging. Larry tweeted it out.
Yep.
He told his followers, you know, that he's excited to try to get the trophy that we're going to send to the winner. And I think that pretty much basically told his followers, hey, go vote for me. And that probably was the difference.
I did see that Jennifer tweeted about it, but she didn't ask for the votes. And that matters. Like when you tell the people that follow you to vote for you, you get more votes. It's a simple concept. But, and look, I don't know. I don't think any of the people that cover the 49ers really care about this. But I'm super competitive. So like, I want to win every single thing ever. But if it does matter to you and you tweet it out, we've seen through Larry and through other people that we'll get to, your fans will come out for you.
Exactly. So matchup 5, you know this one quite well.
Yeah, buddy. Me and Mimosa Michelle. It was a tough matchup, but I'm happy to say, because again, I'm super competitive, I will move on in the tournament and save myself a little embarrassment. Like I can't be eliminated in my first matchup here. 66% to 34%. I have eliminated Michelle, and I apologize. Oh, how about this?
We need to put an asterisk on your win here because you have an unfair advantage of being on 3 days a week.
Oh, that's true. By the way, just on the previous matchup, John watching on YouTube says we pissed Larry off by having him in the play-in round. It wasn't a play-in round. I had to make the bracket look a little funky just to get all the matchups to come out right. It wasn't really, I know it looked like a play-in round, and I apologize. That wasn't my intent. But look, you know what? It worked because Larry got engagement and he won. So congratulations.
I was in it, so.
Well, that was intentional.
There's that. Yeah. I didn't even advance out of it. So,
well, and now you don't even have the Jim Harbaugh award of saying like, hey, I lost to the champion. Like Jim Harbaugh only ever lost to the Super Bowl champion in the playoffs. You don't have that because you lost to Michelle, and I defeated her in
Yeah.
matchup 5.
Yeah. Thanks for that. I call shenanigans on your making of this bracket.
How dare you? All right, matchup 5 goes to me. Matchup number 6, Steph Sanchez and Jason Aponte. The results are in, and Jason is moving on 69.8% of the vote. Nice, to 30.2% for Steph. I'm not going to lie. I thought Steph is crushing it right now on her YouTube channel, 49 Carats. You can go there. She has interviews with a ton of draft prospects, guys the 49ers have talked to. She was obviously at the combine. So was Jason. They have been crushing it in this one. And Jason moves on. That surprised me by how big the margin was.
I will say, I think a year from now, this one could flip because she's got her rocket started, right? She's got the Boza impressions, which Lynch reacted to.
Yep.
She had, what is it, Stephanie Spain on her show. I think she's going to have a very
Stefania
big year.
Bell.
Or sorry, where did I get Spain from?
I don't know. Sarah Spain? Were you thinking of Sarah Spain, maybe?
I'm mixing the two names. That's what I'm doing.
There you go.
I'm fired.
We'll talk after the show. You're right. I mean, Steph is crushing it. Maybe the people thought it went by height. I don't know. Could that be it?
I already made that joke on Twitter.
Damn.
I said it wouldn't go by height.
Steph said it was going by hair. I want to give a quick shout out here. Thank you very much for the super chat. Niners have the best content creators. I think we do. This is an interesting community. We certainly have the most, I feel like, content creators.
I mean, I could tell you from having a brother that's a Titans fan. He did a podcast for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years. The most popular Titans website, that's not like mainstream media, was the podcast. And they would get like 100 to 200 listens an episode. And that was like the biggest podcast.
That's impressive. JJ00 watching on Twitch. Satch has done the impossible, taking down Mimosa. Michelle, you have to win the whole thing now. We'll get into sort of the path of the bracket.
I have looked at the results coming in beginning, and you and Jason are a dead heat.
I don't think I'm going to beat Jason. Congratulations to Jason, by the way. His channel just had 1 million views. We're like barely over 100,000. So yeah, I got a tough matchup. How about this? This may be the shock of all shocks. Vish Kumaran destroyed Mike Silver, 65.4% to 34.6%. And I know that, Mike Silver was doing other things and recently came into the 49ers space more prominently, but Vish just absolutely billy clubbed him.
Well, I mean, Silver flat out tweeted a response saying, "Please make me lose in round 1."
That's true.
So, that might have helped. But it's also, look, there's another result here that I think will illustrate this point. It's one of my big takeaways from it. Mike Silver and Tim Kawakami are the two that I think they don't engage with the fans until it's, well, I'm blocking you. And they enjoy that. Like, that's when they react. They tweet out responses to fans. That is, to call it, I guess I call it a shtick, but that is what they do. And I think that what that does is, because so many are blocked, there's a lot of votes that they don't get in a thing like this.
So if you're wondering, the round 3 matchups are Matt Mayoko against Brad Graham, that's going to be a battle. I'm fascinated to see how that works, because you've got Mayoko, who's been doing it forever, and Brad Graham, who, like you said, is clearly just exploding right now popularity-wise. So that's going to be interesting. Then Grant against Larry Krueger. That's another interesting matchup. Me against Jason, we already talked about. And then have we got to the last matchup of that bracket?
It's Vish and Akash, which I'm actually looking at the bracket right now, and I realized I misspelled Vish's name. So I am sorry about that. It is Visk.
Visk. Oh, geez. All right.
That's actually probably an autocorrect, and I didn't.
And Akash took down Eric Branch. Is that correct in matchup 8?
That is correct. We will go to matchup 8 so you can see that. This one, yeah.
That's a beatdown.
Yeah, it's surprising. I don't want to get too much into it because that's not the point, but I think Branch has an uphill battle because of the paywall.
Yeah, that's a big deal. Akash 73.5%, Eric Branch 26.5%. And Akash has been off the scene a little bit. I know he's got a lot of work stuff going on. I know he wants to get back into it. But this one was not close. So that sets up Akash and Vish in round 3. And no, I did not mean to put those. I did not intend for those two to end up against one another, if you're wondering.
Well,
But
I mean, if we're being honest, we did not expect Silver and Branch to lose.
that's true.
So,
but shout out to those guys. So that's going to be an interesting round 3. All right, let's go to the other side of the bracket.
and this is the one I was previewing earlier. This one changed in the last hour of the bracket.
Yeah, this was the closest matchup.
Jesse launched to an early lead, actually a decently significant lead, which I think shows that we are connected to the content creators.
Yep.
Because the content creators tended to jump out to big leads, and then as more retweets came in and it showed up in people's For Yous and things like that, the mainstream people tended to start to gain.
So I actually, little peek behind the curtain, I actually made the bracket earlier than when you texted me. I looked at the results. I was like, okay, I'll make the bracket for round 3. And then when you said, hey, can you send it to me so I can tweet it out? I had to flip this because I was actually, Jesse was in the lead. And Tim, like you said, made the late charge and he just edged him out 51.4 to 48.6.
It was actually 10 votes separated them with 2 hours to go in the voting.
Oh, man. So. Oh, Jesse says, I demand a recount. Shout out to you for watching. It was so close. I don't know what maybe Tim just like spammed the vote at the end. But that's
possible. It's hard to tell. I mean, it seemed like every time we tweet something about it, it would get a little influx of votes.
Yeah.
So it could have been just pushing it towards the end because I made a tweet saying less than 2 hours to go. I'm not sure, but this one was it was never a huge gap. Like first like 10 minutes. Yes, Jesse got a lot of the votes, but it was within like 40 or 50 votes the whole way.
And I'm not going to lie, I didn't do you any favors, Jesse. Having to go up against Tim is that's a tough matchup. So I think if you had faced anybody else, you'd probably be moving on. But you weren't, and so you're done. Matchup 10. This was another close one. Nick Wagner of ESPN against Cam Inman of the San Jose Mercury News. And congratulations, Cam. 52.8% of the vote compared to 47.2% for Nick. Nick was in the lead when I looked at the bracket earlier today also, and this one flipped at one point.
I guess I didn't catch that. This one, from every time I looked at it, Cam was like 52, 53%. It was another one that it was never a huge difference. It was within about 100 votes pretty much the whole way.
I feel like Nick breaks a lot of 49ers stories too.
He does, but so Nick's issue is he has to cover all of the NFC West. So he doesn't get just 49er stuff. So I think that probably hurts him a little bit because he's posting about other teams and things like that. And something like this.
Okay.
You might actually have to write something positive about the Seahawks, you know?
Well, we can't have that. Matchup number 11 as we continue to work our way through the bracket. And this was controversial because we had Peacock and Crocker both from Locked On. A lot of people were upset that they were matched up this early and they didn't go against each other. They refused. I was kind of hoping that we would get a little inter-show battle because, again, I wanted to mess up the chemistry of all 49ers shows out there and just have them, go to ruin and we would be the only ones left.
Yeah, sure. Because we are that strong of a thing that we are capable of doing that.
I tried, look, there's competition out there.
Are you saying you purposely put Michelle and I against each other to try to
100%. But congratulations to Crocker, 78.3% of the vote to 21.7% for Peacock. I don't know, they sort of combined into P-Croc, and now you know what? Now they can unite though. See, so after some initial strife, Croc moves on, and now that show can unite behind him and push him further into the tournament. So I'm not all about the hate.
Based on these results, I would say in comments, I should say as well on Twitter, Crocker might be the odds-on favorite at this point. He might be who I'd put my money behind.
There's a reason why I put him on the thumbnail, man. He's a powerhouse in the tournament for sure. Matchup number 12 was Al Sacco and Brian Rennick from the 49ers Web Zone podcast. And shout out to Al, 66.8% of the vote. He moves on compared to 33.2% for Brian. I thought that one was going to be a little closer.
It was an interesting thing because, Sacco kind of left the No Huddle podcast for a little while there. Both you and I joined it in his as his replacement, I guess. And then we left and he decided to come back. So I wasn't sure how that would go since he kind of had a little while that he was almost out of the limelight, so to speak. But man, he's still really popular.
I want to just get to this super chat real quick just to acknowledge it. Corey says he thinks this is going to be Kittle's last season with the Niners. He'll be reunited with Jimmy Garoppolo in Vegas. We've talked about before, we don't necessarily think Kittle is destined to finish his contract with the Niners. He does love him some Jimmy, and there's a tight end opening now in Vegas with Darren Waller getting traded to the Giants, so that could definitely be possible. What do you think?
I think it's definitely possible. I don't know that Kyle would be willing to do that, but
yeah.
It does kind of make me laugh because of the quarterbacks that Kittle has played with, Jimmy might pass to him the least.
Yeah, that's true. All right, let's go to the Niners Nation matchup. In matchup number 13, Kyle Posey against Jordan Elliott. This one was another close one. Jordan just edged out KP, 52.2 to 47.8. I'm a little surprised at that because Kyle does an awesome job for Niners Nation, but Jordan gets the win over the boss man.
Yeah, this one got closer and closer as it went. Jordan was at one point in the 60s, and it was like every time I loaded to check and see how it's going, Kyle had closed the gap by 1%. So it's one that I'm curious if it had kept going, whether or not it would have eventually flipped. But Jordan moves on, and we're going to see how he does in the next round.
Yeah, because he's got a matchup. Let's just call it like it is. All right, let's get to matchup number 14. 95-7 the game. We put the morning roast against each other, and it did not go well for
Shasky.
Joe
Got roasted.
Yeah, 64.6% to 35.4%. This was the only kind of show where we had a little bit of conflict there, which again, I enjoy. But in the end, it didn't end up being much of a contest. I just hope that the morning roast can survive this.
Yeah, hopefully Joe throws his support behind Bonta here in the future because he's going up against Jordan.
That is going to be a fascinating matchup. I feel like you got to leverage your radio show, right? I mean, you could talk about it all day, every day.
Yeah. You could totally bring one of us on too to talk about it.
Yeah, we're available. Sign me 29 watching on my Twitch page at Stats on Fire. That sounds good. KP is the GOAT. KP is the GOAT. So congratulations there. Let's get to our final two matchups on that side of the bracket. Matt Barrows against Marco Martinez. And this one was not much of a contest either. Matt Barrows, almost 76% of the vote, easily moving on. I put them against each other because of the whole Trey Lance test results thing. They were kind of linked because they both interviewed Brandon Alley from the I don't even remember, S2 cognitive test, whatever the hell the name of that test was. But Barrows, he's a powerhouse. So that was kind of unfair to Marco. I'm not going to lie, but Matt Barrows moves on.
Simple enough. And then matchup 16, maybe the most interesting to me.
Got a little controversy here. This was the KMBR matchup, John Lund and Brian Murphy. And if you have been paying close attention, you can see the responses there, over 3,400 responses, by far the biggest in the entire tournament. Mm-hmm. And you're calling shenanigans, Levin.
Somebody's doing shenanigans. I don't know if it's Lund himself or just a super fan of his, but you can cast multiple votes because the only way to limit it is to require that we collect your email. And I did not want to do that because I thought that would severely limit the number of votes we got. So if you've been paying attention, this matchup got 1,100 more votes than the next closest matchup, which means there were about 1,100 ballots cast where this was the only one that got a vote in it because you didn't have to vote in all 16 matchups. And that trend is continuing in round 3.
Interesting. So you can go vote now. There's a link to vote in the description of this show. You click right on that link. It'll take you right there to round 3, and you can get all your votes in. And like Levin said, you can vote as many times as you want. So that side of the bracket, let's just look at it real quick. Tim Kawakami and Cam Inman are in round 3. That's going to be, a battle of traditional 49ers beat writers. Thank you very much. Then you got Croc going up against Al Sacco, and I think that's going to go poorly for Al. No slight to him, just Croc is a stud.
Mm-hmm.
If I had to make a prediction. And then you've got Jordan Elliott against Bonta Hill and Matt Barrows against John Lund. If Lund takes down Barrows, then we might have, I agree on the shenanigans. Because Barrows is nothing against John, but Barrows is a Niners staple. He's been covering the team for 24 years.
Yeah, I do find this kind of part interesting. Out of the 16 remaining, we actually have a very good mixture between traditional kind of print media, radio media, podcasters like ourselves, and then you still have some of the content creators in there that's what they do, is kind of the writing, but not in the traditional newspapers or the Athletic. So I think we have a very good mixture in there.
I like that. And we should. Again, the whole point of this was just to make people aware of how much coverage of the 49ers is out there. And no matter what kind of coverage you like, if you like very positive coverage, if you're not looking for people to dive into conspiracy theories or anything like that, there's people there for you. If you like people who are hypercritical, there's people there. If you like, just kind of funny, lighthearted coverage where people don't take it too seriously, there's something for everything. It's a 49ers buffet.
Yeah, and that's kind of the whole point of this, is we have a very diverse media group with the 49ers, and you had the idea to make a bracket and have some fun to see during this whole March Madness going on of who ends up being the fan favorite. I'm seeing a comment here saying the form is closed. Did you link the correct form? You might have linked round 2, not round 3. Rob.
Oh, I thought it was just one link for everything.
Nope.
You got a new link? Okay. So then I screwed that up, and I apologize.
Where's the description? I can grab the thing and put it in there. Or are you not able to edit it now? Here's a look behind the scenes.
I don't think I can edit it now, but I will fix it. I apologize. That's my bad. Sorry. We will fix it. We'll address it so you can vote for 2 days. Every round is 2 days. So I promise we'll fix it, and I'll get the vote change in the description, and please go and vote. And again, this is just a fun thing. And I wanted to mention, as Ricky points out on YouTube, Ryan Hensley is the OG of content creators. I did a bad job. There's people I left off. I thought of this too late. And so then I was kind of scrambling to get it in there, and I left off people that deserve to be in it. And I didn't mean to slight anybody. I've tried to reach out to everybody and apologize. Next year, we're going to do this again. It will be bigger. I promise you. We'll have more people in the tournament. I'll do a better job of getting a full picture of everybody that's involved. I just want to point that out. I went on with Ryan last night. I know you're going to go on with Ryan, so there's no ill will there whatsoever. And that's good, because that's not what I was trying to do with this thing.
And full disclosure, while I am totally happy to let you take full blame, I did see the bracket before it went live and had the chance to bring up people. And I also did not dive deep enough into it to make sure that we did not miss anybody important. I looked it over, thought, yeah, I think everybody's there. And turned out we were wrong.
The speed got me. I was trying to get it out, and I didn't take care to get everybody there. But again, next year we'll do a better job. All right, let's switch gears here a little bit, because we do want to talk about 49ers football and things going on with the 49ers right now. We've reached kind of an interesting point where free agency has slowed a little bit. We can sort of step back and take a snapshot of these teams and see where things stand. And for the 49ers, I've talked about it. I think they did a great job in free agency. Let's throw up the scorecard here for you. And this isn't every single person, but this is like a bigger picture look at it. I'm happy with what was done. How do you feel?
I mean, the simple facts are the Niners are returning 19 of 22 starters. So you can't be too upset. I think the 49ers are well positioned. Obviously, most things revolve around the quarterback and whether or not anybody emerges there. that's good enough to truly put them over the top. But depth will probably be an issue. I think if the Niners have an injury year like they've had in recent years, they could feel it a lot more than they have in recent seasons. You know, they might not be able to push through and still make the playoffs if they have some big injuries. But as long as they're average health, this is a team nobody wants to play in. That defense with Hargrave and Bosa next to each other, like, the fans are going to be happy, but I think nobody will be more happy than Eric Armstead because he's going to be like that third guy that kind of gets to pick on a lesser offensive lineman, probably because all of the focus is going to be going to Hargrave and Bosa.
And, you said something there that I feel like a lot of 49er fans are going to latch onto. It jumped out to me immediately. And that is, well, if the 49ers just have an average year injury, when has that ever happened? Greg T is, I believe that's the comment he was going for. Like, we haven't had a common or an average injury year since Kyle Shanahan took over. The lowest the 49ers have ever been in injuries is 10th. They've been worse than that in every other year. So I keep saying that they're due for an average injury year, but I don't know if that's true.
I mean, we should start to really question that. I wish we could really see a breakdown of how practices work, because one thing was said by a former player last offseason that to me raised my eyebrows, and that was Jaquiski Tart talking about how less physical the Eagles' practices were than the 49ers' practices. And we do know that if you have very physical practices, you do tend to have more injuries because the body needs time to recover from the games. And if you have physical practices, they're not getting that recovery time. So I do wonder if some of this is due to the way the practices are run.
The one thing I'll say, just looking at this list, right? Jimmy Garoppolo, a guy that was always hurt. Jimmy Ward, a guy that had a long injury history. Mike McGlinchey started to get banged up a lot, especially towards the end of his tenure with the 49ers. Obviously, we know Emmanuel Mosley got hurt. Some of the guys that have been on the injury list frequently for the 49ers over the years are gone now. So maybe that does start to flip a little bit.
One can only hope. It'd be nice.
So that's where things stand with the 49ers. Just taking a look at the bigger picture in the NFC, if we could, and we'll start with the Eagles since they're the ones that ended the 49ers season. They've added Rashad Penny, Greedy Williams, and Marcus Mariota. They've kept James Bradbury, Fletcher Cox, Boston Scott. Jason Kelsey is obviously a great add for that, or a great re-signing, I should say. Brandon Graham, Darius Slay, who said he wanted out at one point, is now officially back. So they've done a good job of keeping people, but look at those departures, Levin. Those are some big names on that list.
Yeah, I think the Eagles are pretty much banking on having a true difference maker MVP quarterback. This is kind of like the Chiefs last year. They let some big players go because they're banking on Mahomes being able to pick up the slack and it wouldn't matter. And they ended up winning it all. So it's not necessarily a bad strategy. It's not like the Eagles could have done a whole lot to change this strategy. They had a lot of very good players reach free agency, and that's kind of the problem. But we'll see what they are. I don't think they're on paper as good, but obviously if they have an MVP level quarterback, it won't matter.
Javon Hargrave, CJ Gardner-Johnson, Gardner Minshew, Miles Sanders, Marcus Epps, and TJ Edwards all gone off the Eagles, but I totally agree with you. That's what happens when you have a quarterback. They know they're going to have to re-sign him to a big deal. But the additions, like the Penny addition with that offensive line, could be massive for them. He had a resurgence with the Seahawks, and if he can stay healthy, which has been his problem, he's going to run for a hell of a lot of yards in Philadelphia.
That's always been his issue, though. He is as injury prone of a player in the league. So banking on that health is very, very risky. It's one of those big reward, big risks, in terms of per rate or per rush ability. Rashad Penny actually leads the league in the last few years. It's just he has not been able to play a lot because he's constantly getting hurt. But obviously, if he has a healthy year, they're going to be an offense that is a massive problem for teams, and you might see it flip where this past year the defense was they were both really good, but the defense is what kind of carried them. That defensive line was ridiculous. You could see it flip this year to the offense if they have the run game just destroying people.
I try to be as objective as possible with these things. Just looking at it right now, where things stand, do you think the Eagles are better or worse than last season?
Worse.
And that you didn't even hesitate at all there.
No, you lost multiple Pro Bowl caliber players on defense. You lost Miles Sanders, who had a really good year, and you're bringing in a guy, like I just said. You don't know if he's going to be healthy. I think that they are considerably worse. Their secondary got worse. C.J. Gardner-Johnson's a really good player. Their defensive line got much worse with Hargrave gone. Like, they kind of, every single part of their team, I feel like, lost somebody. And while they got a lot of big name re-signings, they weren't able to bring in any true big names that you can count on to replace them.
I think that's fair, honestly. And I think Philadelphia may have a tougher time in the division this year, even though it was a good division last year also. But the Giants, I think, are much better than they were last year with some of the moves they've made. And I think it's fair to say the Dallas Cowboys, as we look at it here, are probably better than they were last year. They've been making some moves here. They've added Stephon Gilmore, former Defensive Player of the Year. They just traded for Brandon Cooks. Brandon Cooks gets traded every year. I think eventually he's going to play for every team, but he's a solid player. He's going to put up 1,000 yards because he does it every year. Obviously, playing across from CeeDee Lamb's going to help him as well. Tony Pollard's going to be coming off an injury, but he's still a very good player. Terrence Steele they kept Leighton Vander Esch, Cooper Rush, their backup quarterback, and they've lost some players, but like in the case, like Zeke Elliott is on that list. I think they're better without Zeke Elliott at this point, so that doesn't even necessarily hurt him.
Yeah, the interesting thing is they have not signed a single player that was not on the team last year. They made 2 trades, but they have not signed anybody in free agency, which means in terms of compensatory picks, they will likely get some compensatory picks, and it certainly seems like they are playing that game where they want to get some draft picks out of this year. So they didn't go after any of the big name free agents, and they're kind of waiting it out, and they'll sign some on like cheaper deals so that they're more likely to get the comp picks. Like you said, if Pollard is able to come back and be fully healthy, they are better off him being the lone back than having split with Zeke. Zeke was worse than Tony. So every single time Zeke got the ball last year, it was making a better player go off the field.
Oh, yeah, I was happy in that game every time. Like, great, give it to Zeke. And then, of course, when Pollard went down, you felt a lot better about the Niners' chances of winning. Not happy that he got hurt, just you felt better that that the Niners would win with Pollard not on the field. They can draft somebody that'll put up exactly what Ezekiel Elliott did last year, and they can draft him for a hell of a lot cheaper. But right now, I would say the Cowboys are better than they were last year. I think that's fair.
It's absolutely fair. I do think Gilmore has more in the tank than most realize. He was kind of anonymously put up a decent season this past year because he wasn't on any great team. It was getting a lot of, limelight. But I think they're better. I think the Brandon Cooks trade is a good move. Yes, he speaks out. Yes, maybe he's not great in the locker room. From what we read, we can only kind of assume that based on how many times he's been traded at this point. But the results speak for themselves for him. He's consistently a really good wide receiver. So he makes them better as long as it doesn't, cause friction. It really comes down to, is Dak going to be the league leader in interceptions, or is Dak going to be what people thought he was coming into this past season?
It's going to be a big question mark for sure. I should point out, by the way, when we're talking about the Eagles, they also have multiple first-round picks. They have the 10th pick, which they got from New Orleans, and they also have the 30th pick. So they're going to add to their team that way. So shout out to them, and Howie Roseman's making moves there. So that's significant for Philly.
Putting this comment up just because it made me laugh.
They weren't happy with Zeke's performance at center. It's crazy. Bay Marin, thank you very much for the comment. That's his last play as a Dallas Cowboy, is that wonky, stupid play where Azeez Al-Shire immediately blows him up because Zeke was the center. That's his final play as a Dallas Cowboy. Had a great Cowboys career, and that is how he goes out.
Just fine by me.
Yeah, I mean, great. they should never have run that play. Now let's get to one more team in the NFC that's been getting a lot of love, Levin, a lot of love from everybody on Twitter, and that is the Detroit Lions, because people think the Lions are going to be an absolute powerhouse this year. We know they added Emmanuel Mosley. They signed David Montgomery from the Bears. CJ Gardner-Johnson's a solid player like we talked about. Cameron Sutton they added, and they didn't really lose that much. Michael Brockers, okay. Jamal Williams is a good player, had a lot of touchdowns last year, but he's a running back, and David Montgomery can certainly be just as good. The Lions are getting a lot of love. People really like what they're building in Detroit. And of course, when it comes to draft picks, they've got a ton of draft picks, and they've got good draft picks. They have 6 and they have 18 in the first round. They've got 48. They've got 55. So they're going to load up.
We'll see. It's the Lions, and their quarterback is Goff. So this is one that, yes, on paper they look great, but so did the dream team of the Eagles, a decade ago, and that blew up in their faces and did not work out. So we'll see. I am definitely not going to crown the Lions until I see it.
Me too.
Because they are the Lions.
And they won 9 games last year. They were 9-8, and if you go look at their schedule, they lost to just about every good team that they played. Right. So I know that their DVOA numbers were good and all that stuff. But when I look at what took place actually on the field, if you want to say that they're going to make the playoffs and you think they're going to be better than last year, I'm down. But if you're telling me I should be scared of the Lions, I'm not there yet.
Yeah, not there yet. We'll see. Their offense was, I believe, like number 1 offense in the league until like right at the end of the year. I think they got overtaken. Do I trust Goff to put up the best numbers in the league? No. Goff had a great year, but you have to question whether or not he can repeat that. I can't count on that.
The crazy thing is, he's like the 4th or 5th best quarterback in the NFC right now. You've got Jalen Hurts, you got Dak, Stafford, Cousins, Goff. He's right in that, 3, 4, 5 range in the entire conference.
Yeah, it's weird. It is weird how stacked it is in the AFC and how it's not in the NFC. It's definitely something that we're already seeing the effects of. The AFC is dominating the NFC, and it's because they have all the quarterbacks. I don't know who I would say it is, but the 8th best quarterback in the AFC probably has an argument to be the 2nd or 3rd best one in the NFC. Now, you might see some things change if some of these quarterbacks are able to hit free agency, where they do look at that and go, I'm going to jump over here and have an easier path to get to the Super Bowl.
And Rodgers is going to be leaving the NFC and going to the AFC, we assume. I did see one of the comments. There it is, JJ00 on Twitch. The Jets still haven't traded for Rodgers. He's an insufferable jerk. But would the Niners win the Super Bowl with him this year? Maybe.
Probably.
And I know that
I think it's a probably. Can't guarantee anything, but probably.
So on Friday, Michelle and I talked with Kay Adams from Up and Adams, and that was her thing, was like, the Jets still haven't done this deal. Why don't the Niners see if they can finagle Aaron Rodgers away from the Packers? And then, you get a really good quarterback, and it solves this whole, quarterback mystery thing. I don't think it's financially possible, but I get what she was thinking. Like, hey, if they can't get this straightened out, is it worth doing like a Rams kind of style swoop in and see if you can make a big swing?
If it's possible, but it's only possible if Rodgers is willing to come on a much more team-friendly deal, and I don't see it. Does not seem to be interested. In the darkness, he did not see red and gold when he was hallucinating.
He's 90% retired, according to him, before he went into the darkness. By the way, if you want to see
every quarterback that starts to get old is 90% retired at that point. You're a month away from when the season ended. Tom Brady every year was leaning towards retirement and then came back. Brett Favre the same way, because when you get to the offseason, your body is basically a bruised pile of mess and mesh, and you need time to heal. And once you're healed, you're like, hold on here, I don't feel like I'm 40-year-old broken down man anymore. I want to play.
Okay, so let me ask you this question. where if you had to power rank the Niners in the NFC, where are you putting them right now? And again, this is before the draft and preseason injuries and all that stuff. Just, it's March 20th. Where are the Niners?
At the top.
Ahead of Philly.
You can say Philly. Like there's two logical arguments here. You can say Philly because they still have most of the key pieces, the truly important pieces they still have, and they just won it. But you also have a very good argument for the Niners because one, they have a longer track record. Two, they got better this offseason, not worse. And they got better by stealing one of the better players from the Eagles.
Yeah.
And then you also can throw in the argument that, hey, are you sure the 49ers were worse this past season, or was it because they had no quarterback? So, yeah, I think the 49ers should be at the top. If somebody else had the Eagles, it's kind of one of those things like, okay, I disagree, but I'm not going to sit here and argue about it because it's just it's a matter of preference.
Slick68 says number 1 in the NFC. JJ00 on Twitch says Niners 1, Eagles 2, 3. Who cares?
We'll see. I mean, the Seahawks, I hate to say it, have had a good offseason.
Yeah,
I'm not scared of Geno, but they did make the playoffs and they seem to be better than they were, and they had a lot of young players. So it seems like you would be able to kind of project them at being an even better team.
And they've got draft capital too from the Russell Wilson trade. So if they hit on those picks, they're going to be able to build something similar to what they had, which is a roster full of really talented guys on rookie contracts. Seattle's at 5. They're at 20 in the first round. They have 37 in round 2, 52 in round 2, also 83, 123. They've got a ton of picks, which they can, use to fill out their roster. They can trade up to get a guy. Who knows, whatever they're going to do. I didn't make a graphic for them, but they're definitely in the conversation. Not for the best team, but they're definitely going to be a playoff team, I would say, next year. And then
they'll be a factor. The Rams will not be a factor.
Agreed.
I don't think any teams had worse offseason than the Rams.
Ooh, off the top of my head. Yeah, I mean, they're clearly...
They lost their entire defense other than Donald.
Yeah, they're definitely rebuilding. Stafford, I still don't know. Like, what is he going to be 100% healthy? I don't know. Yeah, that's going to be interesting. I still, Sean McVay is saying, "Oh, I'm going to coach for many years." Maybe we'll see. He's going to have an offer, a massive offer from TV whenever he wants it, and that is absolutely a factor. And if he gets in there this year and they stink again, like he takes those losses hard. If they win 5 games this year, like, is he going to really want to stick around when he knows he's got, $20 million a year, whatever it is, from Amazon or whoever to co-announce games?
I wouldn't, but I would have already left to begin with. You won your Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Now go make almost as well, actually more.
Probably more.
These contracts are crazy. It used to be almost as much. Now it's a lot more than what you make as a coach, to not have any of that strife and dealing with players' egos or any of that stuff.
Any of it. You're always relevant. Every time
you don't have to worry about Donald taking a helmet to another person in practice. None of that stuff.
Not getting suspended for it. That was not sketchy at all. So yeah, a lot of people are saying, do the Niners have a quarterback? The Eagles clearly have their quarterback. So I think I would go Philly 1, just because even though they've had some losses on that defensive line, like Hurts can make up for that. And A.J. Brown's going to be there for another year. Now he knows the system. Devontae Smith is obviously really good. Dallas Goedert's really good. Jason Kelce is back, which I think helps them a lot. So I think I would go Philly 1, San Francisco 2, and number 3 is probably Dallas, if I had to pick it. I don't give Minnesota. Minnesota was the fluke of all flukes last year. Detroit will be better. I don't know if I want to put them at 3, though, so I think I'll go Eagles, Niners, Cowboys.
All I heard is you didn't pick the Niners, so you're just a hater.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Terrible. Absolutely terrible. How about this from Waveware? On paper, sure, we are by far the best coached team. That's interesting. Sirianni was aggressive, and then he got in the Super Bowl, and he was aggressive in the Super Bowl until he wasn't, and that's, to me, part of the reason they lost. And so I ding him for that a little bit, although Kyle is super, super conservative. There's
Can I
definitely an
say something
argument.
about Sirianni?
Yeah.
I think the comparison for him is Harbaugh. He's a very big character, very outspoken, very aggressive. I think he's going to burn very bright, but he's also going to have a very limited shelf life. I don't see him as being somebody that can keep the same locker room for 10 straight years because of all of that intensity.
That's going to be interesting to see. He's definitely like, I love that when he's mic'd up and the official is like telling him to move back. And he's like, I can be standing here. I know what I'm doing. That's good. I like that, man. That's interesting.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Like he doesn't have the catchphrases, and we heard from Joe Staley that those catchphrases got old. So maybe he'll last a little bit longer.
From Harbaugh, yeah, the Harbaugh. Well, because he never changed them, and he still uses them at Michigan. Apparently, he does all the same stuff. Dan Campbell, I'm sorry, like maybe it's my bias, but I don't think Dan Campbell's out coaching Kyle Shanahan. I don't think he's out coaching anybody, to be honest with you.
He's in the perfect situation. He's somebody that I think is very good at instilling confidence in players.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he's going to be a good enough tactician to be the difference maker once you're dealing with playoffs and championships and trying to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, he's more of a motivational coach than an X's and O's coach, I think, which is
Right.
fine. Like there's all different kinds. But I
He's
would
almost like a new and improved Mike Singletary. Great at the motivation. Remains to be seen if he can do the X's and O's part of it.
I think Sirianni is a good X's and O's coach. I think Sirianni, for the most part, is a good game management coach. Kyle has a lot of work to do in that area. Mike McCarthy's a potato, as I have said many times. Pete Carroll's a motivational coach, but Pete's not a good situational coach either.
He's not a good situational coach, but I would say Pete Carroll might be the best teacher in the whole game because the way he is able to get young defensive backs and they're good right away. Like he's very good at teaching whatever he does.
Yeah, that's fair. McVay is a good coach. I mean, McVay's had one bad year. He may have more, but to this point, Sean McVay has had one bad year. He's won instantly since he's gotten there. And he took over that friggin' Jeff Fisher mess. And he had a quarterback in Goff that looked hideously bad that nobody wanted. And he won right away. And I think he deserves credit for that. As much as, I've dinged him for other things. When you have one bad season in like 5-6 years, yeah, you deserve praise.
Yeah, and we don't get to talk about Kingsbury anymore.
Damn. I'll miss you, Cliff. I was sad to see that happen. But then they hired Jonathan Gannon, so I was like, okay, maybe things will continue to be a struggle.
Be interesting to see what he is, because he's somewhat known, but I don't think he's not mainstream. He's not like, say, Kyle Shanahan, where
right.
People really knew what he was before he got the head coaching gig. It'll be interesting to see what he's able to do.
So that's where things stand. Again, as of March 20th, 2023, we'll see what happens in the draft and all of that. But the Niners are up there. I know some people were frustrated with free agency, but I keep telling you, a lot of the guys that signed are not better than the people on the 49ers roster right now. So don't get discouraged. Plus, the Javon Hargrave move was a freaking home run. Thank you again to everybody that voted in the tournament. It is still open. I promise I'll fix that link. I apologize. So you'll be able to vote in round 3. You can vote as many times as you want. And thanks to everybody that has reached out that was in the tournament. Nobody has gotten bent out of shape about it, which, again, I really appreciate because we're not trying to make anybody. Well, that's true. I guess in theory, people could still be mad at me. But again, go and vote. We'll keep that going. And obviously, we'll update the results. Also, Levin and I are kicking around at an idea of live streaming a Madden franchise on the YouTube channel and the Twitch channel. So if you think that's a good idea, let us know. Hit us up. Levin's on Twitter @takesbylevin. I am @statsonfire. Like and subscribe to the YouTube channel, please. And thank you very much, Levin. I appreciate you filling in for Vish.
Yeah, whatever gets me away from having to deal with a 2-year-old.
God, I've been there. My daughter just turned 3. I was like, all right, the terrible 2s are over. And then somebody texted me. I was like, yeah, but now she's a 3-nager.
Yeah,
like, she
turns 3 soon. And luckily the in-laws are in town right now. But I don't know if it came through at all. But this entire show, I have been hearing her downstairs stomping around, playing. And I am tired.
Oh, boy. All right. Well, I'll let you go recover. Thanks, everybody, again. Thanks for listening. And we'll talk to you next time.